Pearson gets into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Let's go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson, 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Oklahoma International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the Just Two Idiots Cup Series. We are here today for race number 5 of the Endurance Series. We are here today at Circuit Magny-Cours in France. And my name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today. 1080p 60 frames a second as we gear up for yet another hour and a half at this 17-turn track. Almost 3 miles in length, about 2.25 miles to be exact. Is qualifying currently underway, and we get things started for our drivers here today and for ourselves watching this lovely race here today. And it looks like a bit of overcast going to be looming overhead of these drivers here as they make qualifying underway, which may have an effect here on track temperatures as the race comes out, or as the race progresses on here. We might see varying times where the sun might poke its head through, but as if anyone knows, France hosting also the legendary Spa. Anyone that follows Formula One or really any form of motorsport that travels across the world, you will know that France isn't always exactly sunny days and blue skies. So we'll have to wait and see how that weather progresses here for today, but at the moment, we're going to also wait to see who the first of the LMDH class is going to be coming across the line here and setting the first lap time, setting the goal here for other drivers, and essentially going to be getting themselves warmed up here as tire temperatures start to come up and they get things settled in here. We're watching Beaver now in the number 10 machine make his way. DC that we're also going to tune in here for just a second. The number 3 machine that we have seen all season long, I should say. Eric is saying Spa is in Belgium. You know what? You're right. It is in Belgium. My bad. Either way, either how, my geography is a little off, but we'll make do. Beaver, DC, AJ going to be some of the first drivers to make their way across the line. And as I say that, actually, simply Steve kind of sneaking himself in there right as I was about to come across his name here. But let's see what his best time is currently. 125.410 going to be the best time here for the 023 driver. And Gareth McAllister, Captain CK, coming in behind, putting in their first hot lap of qualifying here. Just a little over 3 minutes being done here for qualifying, and we will eventually start to see, hopefully, see these drivers get their get those times kind of dialed in here as they get themselves kind of warmed back up here. Simply Steve kind of showing us how it's done here, giving us a little bit of a hot lap, and we'll actually take a ride on board here for a moment because as I'm still laughing about my geography failure. Anyway, this is the first time that I will be here at this particular track, Magny-Cours. Not a place that I have ever been to or have really had the opportunity to see either in the real world, whether it's on television or otherwise. So this is kind of a fresh experience for myself and going to see what this track is all about. I am frankly kind of excited to see what it's going to be like here, given that from what I can tell from the track map and what I can tell from what we've seen already, I think it's going to pose some excellent and challenging racing for these drivers here today. It's kind of almost giving me a similar feel to Rudskagen that has also recently been added to the iRacing service. Maybe a little bit bigger version of Rudskagen, if you will. And here is the sharp hairpin that we have. I think this is turn 9, if I'm not mistaken. And then this is a long straight heading into a kink, 12 and 13, a very fast turn there, and then heading into a sharp left-hander of turn 14. Should be a long straight here after this. Relatively straight here as they head into what will be the final. I think I might be in the wrong part of the track here. Again, folks, this is my first time here, and let's see if I was right. Oh, I was a little bit behind, but that's all right. Now heading down the long straight, heading to the chicane of turn 15. The final couple turns that we have before heading on to the front straight and across the checkered line. But that is a ride on board with Simply Steve, the 023 driver, currently sitting at the pole, on top of pole at the moment with a 124.812 as the best time to beat here, and just under 4 minutes left before the checkered flag is waved for the LMDH class, and they have to return back to the pits and get themselves ready to go for the green flag to drop here, or at least get themselves gridded up. And Simply Steve looks like he is going to bring it to the pits a little bit earlier than the rest of the field here. And Beaver, Eat My Dust, going to be second and third here at the moment. And Captain C. Kang going to be in fourth. AJ in fifth. Gareth McAllister in that sixth place spot. And DC going to be seventh. And from what I'm seeing so far, based on times already, it looks like Simply Steve and Beaver are going to be the drivers to look out for, primarily up towards the front of the field, assuming that both of these drivers, and realistically the field, doesn't have any major hiccups going into the start of today's race. The first couple laps that we'll have here today, hopefully, will be relatively calm and clean as we get things going here. So with just under 2 minutes left before the LMDH class sees the checkered flag here for their qualifying run, and then the GT3 class will make their way out onto the track and get themselves ready as we see a driver coming off track. It looks to be Sector is that driver, the number 95 machine, going to safely make his way back onto the racing surface and cause no other incident aside from that. So again, some drivers still getting things kind of worked in here, getting the feel for everything, and hopefully going to have all the kinks worked out here very, very fast chicane, I guess you could almost consider it, if you will. And it looks like most drivers are pushing it very, very much so. We'll watch along here with Gareth McAllister kind of do a flyby here of this particular section. Just to kind of get an idea of how far they're kind of pushing track limits here, and if they really are. I mean, that looks to be all fair game to me. So, yeah, just a very fast chicane that kind of set right in the middle of that elongated straight before coming into the hairpin. So, I mean, I guess maybe a way to, I don't really know if it's a way to slow drivers down at all, but I know it certainly can be a little intimidating for those that might not know where the limits are on the track here. But everyone seems to be doing relatively okay. There's the biggest gap that we have between the leader and the back end of the pack here is 4 seconds. Not a huge difference, and I think that is probably going to change as we get into the start of our main event here today. So I don't think we will see excuse me, I got distracted there for a second, but I think as we see the checkered flag fly here, it's going to be an interesting start here for the LMDH field, as Beaver managing to pull away with the pole position of 124.738. Simply Steve going to be up there on pole as well, not on pole, but in the front row alongside Beaver. And Simply Steve, after coming away, I think, oh boy, I got to check my yeah, so Simply Steve coming away with a 4th place finish for the race at Sebring, looking to hopefully secure a little bit more success here today for himself and his team. Simply Steve going to be driving for Team Speed Squad, his teammate Eat My Dust in the number 24 machine. So both himself and Eat My Dust looking quite comfortable out there at the moment, as we see Crew, the 737 machine, out here, as well as the rest of the GT3 class starting to make their way around the track here for the first time and get themselves ready for the action here today. Joe Albanese here, aka Long Island Nerd, as I'm reading Discord chat, has me cracking up here. Paper Bag, Joe Albanese, or excuse me, Long Island Nerd, I keep saying his full name. Garlic Dog, Biker Pilot, Bar South 22, all going to be out here on track at, ooh boy, right as we tuned away from Paper Bag there, he gets a little loose. The cold tires probably giving him a little bit of a hard time in that Porsche. I don't blame him. Those things are usually out to get you in most cases that I've experienced driving the Porsche. Not necessarily this specific car, but nonetheless. We have reports here as well coming in that Book, the 056 machine, he is actually unintentionally had to take it back down into pit road due to an issue outside of the iRacing service itself. So unfortunately, he's going to have to try and get that worked out. Hopefully, he's going to be able to make it back in. I'm not sure if he will be able to. He might still be able to. Again, hopefully he will make an appearance here today. But Biker Pilot going to be currently at the top of the GT3 class. A 139.151 as the best time from Biker Pilot. A 139.2, just a few 100ths of a second behind Biker Pilot. Long Island Nerd sits in that second place spot. Garlic Dog going to be about a second behind all of that with a 140.9. Paper Bag a little bit further back than that, as again some of these drivers, the GT3s, seeming to be maybe not necessarily struggling with getting these tires warm here, but definitely it's taking a little bit longer than probably usual. Again, a little bit earlier in the broadcast, flashback to my my geography error, discussing a little bit about the fact that the cloud cover around the track here today, I think is going to have a little bit of an effect on the race here today. We'll actually take a look at what the current weather conditions look like. 75 degrees that we are seeing, 75 degrees Fahrenheit that we are seeing for the overall track temperature. 69 degrees is the ambient temperature here today. So not very humid, not a whole lot of wind going on, and I think things will be relatively calm otherwise. So 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. I wouldn't exactly say it's cold, but it's definitely not going to... It's going to take a little bit longer, I think, to get those tires to the temperature that you need them to be at in order to really click off those fast laps that a lot of these drivers are going to be looking for. And I think even then, we're still going to see a little bit of time being sacrificed just to keep these cars in a straight line, keeping going around the track here. Again, as drivers go over long stints here, they're going to want to manage those tires, manage fuel as much as possible. Tires, I think, are going to be probably a big one for today's race, just given the number of technical corners that we have here. We'll actually take a moment here to ride on board with Long Island Nerd here in the O2 machine. Oh boy, right as we do so as well, gets a little bit into the gravel, and that's enough to get that car unsettled. The rear end going right around for a ride here, spinning me right around, baby, right around, you know the rest. Anyway, Long Island Nerd going to get himself back out onto track here as we see Paper Bag, the 420 machine, going to make his way around. The Scuderia DNF 420 machine coming across the line here and currently sitting at the tippy top of the GT3 class with a 138.715. Drivers were discussing it in the chat as well, in the Discord chat, not in the YouTube chat, for those of you who might be wondering. They were wondering who was going to be the GT3 winner today, as I didn't mention it, but we have two drivers that are not attending today's race, if it wasn't already obvious for those of you watching. Eric and also Squilliam. Squilliam from the GT3 class, as well as Eric in the LMDH class. Both of these drivers not going to be in attendance here today, unfortunately, but they are going to be here in spirit, and maybe we will, I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk to them at some point tonight. I'm not sure if that's still going to be a thing. Perhaps it will be at some point. We'll keep an eye on that. But anyhow, qualifying, 2 minutes left to go, just under 2 minutes left to go before drivers are required to bring it back down into pit road, get themselves ready to go for the start of today's events. An hour and a half of endurance racing here at Magny-Cours, and I think it is going to be yet another fantastic race here with the J2ICS Cup Series as we gear up for race number 5 of the season. A lot has happened already, and a dominating season so far has been made. Let's take a look here. So yes, coming away last week, or excuse me, yeah, last race, 2 weeks ago at Sebring, Squilliam coming away with the win there, and I believe Phillip Island was the same situation there as well. So again, Squilliam has had an absolutely dominating season so far in the GT3 class, and I think is going to continue to look to improve upon that here today, as or well, not today, but once he returns in future races. Biker Pilot, Long Island Nerd Crew, Book has actually returned. I said he was going to make a return. So he is currently back. He's going to try and put in a hot lap here with, it looks like he's already made one with a 142.752 as the best time here for the 056 machine. So probably not the fastest time that he was hoping for, but also getting a little bit of a wrench thrown in the gears here with the issues that he was having outside of the iRacing service here. So as Book is going to make his way around for what I would assume is going to be the last time, the checkered flag being waved from the flag stand, and it is going to be the last opportunity for these drivers to make it across the checkered line and hopefully improve any time that they might have here. A 139.050 for Long Island Nerd as he comes across the line, and Book coming across the line, is able to improve his time, but not able to improve his position with a 141.920. That is also going to end our qualifying here, as drivers now making their way back down to the pits, and they are going to get cars ready to get gridded up here and get ourselves ready to go for the green flag to drop here for the first time. Race number 5, the Just 2 Idiots Cup Series right here at Magny-Cours. And I think it's going to be a fantastic racing. You've got a little bit of a preview of what the starting rows are going to look like here. We will have an official starting lineup here in just a few moments once we are able to pull that up for you here today. So, and once qualifying actually is officially ended here, sometimes it seems iRacing taking a very, very inconsiderate amount of time here. We'll go ahead and turn on some tunes for everyone, so that way we don't all go crazy listening to nothing but silence. But at the moment, there it goes. Finally, there we go. So we get ready to grid up for the start of today's race, and let's go ahead and get on into it. Up in the front row for the LMDH class, it's Beaver and Simply Steve. Captain CK, Eat My Dust, taking up the second row. Gareth McAllister and DC in the third row. AJ Sector going to be in your fourth row, with Lamp rounding out the LMDH field in the fifth row. Bar South also going to be technically in the fifth row here, starting off in the front of the GT3 field. Moving on down, Paperback Biker Pilot going to be in that seventh row. Joe Albany's crew in the eighth row. Garlic Dog and a Book in the ninth row, with Prince Adam rounding things out here today. A very quick run through the field here as we just prepare for the green flag, or at least for the safety car to make its way around the track for the first time. Make our pace lap and get ourselves ready for the start of today's events. And the one thing the one thing I'd love to point out here about this view that we currently have of the field getting lined up on the starting grid is just how small these LMDH cars are compared to their, well, not so smaller counterparts, the GT3s that are behind them. Definitely is impressive just how much power is packed inside of these vehicles. It is incredible. And I'm sure that some of you watching are going to make some jokes about that, and I can feel it. I already sense it. But with that being said, about 10 seconds left to go here before we see the safety car officially make its round, and we will get ourselves ready for the start of race number 5 for the Just 2 Idiots Cup Series. It has been a fantastic season so far for the Endurance Series, and I hope that is going to be a fantastic race for all of these drivers as we get geared up and we set off for the first time here at Magny-Cours. And I think, folks, it is going to be a great race here tonight. 1 hour and 30 minutes on the clock that we will have, and as soon as the safety car makes its way down into pit road, it is game time for today's race. And first, it'll be the LMDH field, then the GT3 class. Take a look at things from up above here, just kind of giving myself also going to give us a really good view of what the start is going to look like here. I'm very curious to see how things are going to play out here going into, right off the rip, we're going right into turn 1. I mean, they're going to have, I think it shouldn't be too bad. It probably won't really get, I'd say, sketchy until probably turn 5 of Adelaide. That'll probably be the sector where things get a little dicey, as it looks like for some reason timing and scoring showing that some drivers in the GT3 field having some troubles here, but seems to be a-okay as they're still working their way around the field. And there we see it. The green flag is up from the flag stand, and all we await for now is the Porsche safety car, the iRacing safety car, to make its way down into the pits. We set off for the first laps of race number 5 here at Magny-Cours. Simply Steve, Beaver in your front row with Eat My Dust, Captain CK taking up the second row. Here, I believe, yes, here we are. So into the final chicane, onto the front straight, and here we go. Off to the races, Beaver, the number 10 machine, off to a valiant start, and we've already got drivers going way wide here. DC, Eat My Dust. It looks like both of these drivers getting themselves into big mix of things here. Captain CK smacking into the wall, loses that rear end. Beaver now going to have Simply Steve hot on his heels here. The number 10 driver going to have to fend off the 0-2-3. Back in third place, Gareth McAllister, DC going to be side by side as they continue their battle between themselves, and as the rest of the LMDH field tries to get themselves sorted out. Looking back to the GT3, Bar South 22, Paperback, Biker Pilot, 1, 2, and 3 here at the moment, and it looks to be that the GT3 field had a little bit of a better start to their race here today than that of a couple drivers here in the LMDH that really got a little wide going into turn 1, and hopefully Captain CK, he's already back out onto the track here, so it looks like he was able to utilize that fast repair and get himself back out onto track here. So luckily that he's not completely out of the race here, but definitely going to be down quite a bit here. At least it's early in the race. You'd rather it be right off the rip, especially in a race setting where you have the opportunity to reset, if you will, and get another chance to get back out on track. I mean, not necessarily reset, but have another opportunity. Keep racing, essentially, is the main goal here. As we're tuning back in here, 5th place AJ along with Eat My Dust, giving him quite the chase here. And also starting to see 1st place being chased down here a little bit by Simply Steve, the 023 driver, continuing his fight up into the lead, or maybe not even trying to fight for the lead, but may even just be kind of just lingering there, trying to be in the mirrors of Beaver. And I mean, frankly, not that there's many mirrors in this car to really look at from what I've seen, or at least been able to tell. Beaver goes wide. That opens the door for Simply Steve, and now they're fighting wheel to wheel. The 023 machine moves up to the front. The love seat, Beaver, goes into 2nd, and it is absolute tragedy here early on here for Beaver. Not necessarily as tragic as one might think, but it is a rough way to start to go into lap 2 of this race, to make not even a critical error, but just an error in general like that. That is going to, I'm sure that's going to be eating away at Beaver here for some time, as Simply Steve comes across the line, setting the fastest lap of the race, a 126.061. As Beaver continues the fight, trying to get himself back to the inside. We ride on board here with the number 10 driver. Just getting a good look here of this battle here between these two drivers. We've got a couple other battles happening around the track here, and it looks like as well Gareth McAllister finding himself in a bit of a pickle just a little bit ago, finding himself 7th at the moment in the LMDH field. So gonna try and keep himself in the mix of things and not lose too much ground. And back towards the GT3 class, we've got Barstow22, still your leader for the GT3's paper bag in that 2nd place spot, being chased currently by Long Island Nerd in the O2 machine. His teammate Biker Pilot just behind him in the number 42 as well. So both of these two drivers kind of going to be looking to work with one another. But even as I say that, I mean, you can also see as well, paper bag, Barstow22, they've got 1 and 2 locked down. This is almost kind of like a Red Bull Mercedes battle, if you will, if this was Formula 1. But Long Island Nerd has a big error. Goes a little bit too wide and has to bring it back the correct way on track here. Oh boy, that's going to cost him a little bit, but fortunately he's got his teammate there to kind of keep him company as well as take the place and keep the fight going here. So now it's just a matter of Long Island Nerd getting back up to the tail of Biker Pilot and kind of keeping that going here, as we're already starting to see, crew, big slide here from the 737, and oh boy, not exactly a situation you want to be in either, sliding back down the other direction onto the racing line. That's a real big, one of those situations that really make you clench a little bit, I guess you could say. Oh man, it only continues to get worse here, and it seems to be tire related, as Eat My Dust, AJ, it seems like they were just bumping wheels with one another there for a moment. might have even exchanged some paint flakes with one another or some wrap or whatever they use on these cars to keep them so light. It's probably paint, but I'm just exaggerating. Anyway, Heat My Dust, AJ here, continuing the side-by-side battle as they head off into turns 1 and 2. Careful not to overshoot it and get themselves into the gravel. Great work from both of these drivers. Take a ride on board for just a moment with AJ from the helmet camera and just kind of get a good look from the inside of these LMDH cars and see what this battle is currently forming up to look like here for these two particular drivers. And actually, as I speak of battles, we've actually got another battle forming up here towards the front of the field with lap traffic starting to come into play here. Simply Steve and Beaver starting to close the gap between one another. Beaver right on the rear wing of that 023 machine. Beaver Simply Steve trying to do everything in his power to keep Beaver right off of him, and there he goes. Beaver going to be on to the inside, and that is going to, I think, potentially almost seal the deal here for Beaver if he can keep this momentum moving, but it's not going to be enough this time around. Through the final chicane onto the front straight. Simply Steve still your race leader and still the leader in the LMDH class. Fantastic work here from Simply Steve, and I'm sure Beaver is going to continue to stay on the attack here and try and keep himself just, I don't want to say he's just going to be on the attack here. He is going to be continuing to fight for that first place spot. But it's still a long race, and you don't want to overdo things. You definitely don't want to put yourself in a situation that you can't come back from. So a lot of these drivers are going to have to be careful. And speaking of careful, Gareth McAllister coming down here into pit road, along with crew as well. The 737 machine going to opt to come down into pit road, and trying to see if I don't think Gareth was served his pit time was only 4 seconds. And there's no way that the pit crew changed the tires in 4 seconds. I mean, unless they're on some Formula 1 type stuff, but I don't know. Either way, I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat can actually help me out with that and confirm whether or not the tire change times for an LMDH is actually 4 seconds, because that seems way too low. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. AJ having some big trouble here. The 45 machine getting off into the grass there just enough to unsettle the car, but he's able to recover it. And luckily able to keep racing here. He's very lucky that he did not collect himself into the wall there on the front straight. But tuning back into the battle for second place here, Biker Pilot along with Paper Bag going to be continuing this fight that they have been seeing for a few laps now. Again, still early on in the race here, and we'll ride on the front nose camera of Biker Pilot here, and we'll actually bring up our interval times here as well for those of you watching at home. I know that a lot of you want to see that here as well. But Biker Pilot here in the... Sam is saying a fast repair. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. That makes way more sense. I keep forgetting that you have to actually go into the pits to use your fast repair, and that takes time as well. Okay, that makes sense. So we could just pretendsies that Gareth McAllister did a Formula 1 pit stop. Enough joking aside, though. So far, so good for a majority of this field, and I mean, we'll take a look at some of the action that we've seen develop since the start of the race, and let's actually go right to the very, very start of today's race. And let's see here. Going right to the green flag, we'll see Simply Steve along with Beaver. Beaver getting a very, very good start heading off into turns 1 and 2, able to keep that pace going quite well. And there you see both Captain CK as well as, I believe that was AJ. That couldn't have been AJ. I'm trying to remember who this was here, but both of these drivers going off into turns 1 and 2 and finding themselves in a bit of a pickle here, but able to recover from it. And again, the GT3s having a much better start, I would say, compared to their LMDH counterparts here. But again, it wasn't necessarily a race-ending wreck or anything like that for most of these drivers. I would say for Captain CK, it was probably a inconvenience at best. But again, these things do happen in motorsport, so you got to take them as they come. And unfortunately, sometimes that results in having to sit in the pits and watch the race with a frowny face in some cases. But so far, I think other than it looks like one driver, Eat My Dust being one of them, looks to be the only driver currently not active on the track at the moment, currently in pit road. I'm not sure if he's in there because of, oh yeah, he's in there because of some big issues. That looks like the 24 machine has seen some brighter days and will hopefully maybe yeah, Sam, I wanted to say I'm pretty sure I remembered the GT3s, or pretty much any of the endurance cars, they take a minute to do a full pit stop. It just baffled me for a second that was so fast. But that, yeah, now that I've been clarified and I'm just perhaps overthinking things a little bit at times, but that's, I guess that's easy to do at times. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the other incidents that have happened here. Unless we've got a little bit of a battle forming here for the lead and for the LMDH class, Simply Steve and Beaver. I mean, these two have been going at it for some time now. But Beaver, I mean, it's really, really impressive to see how well Beaver has done to stay on the attack here and stay as close as he has been to Simply Steve. I mean, that is not an easy thing to do, to hold, under a second gap between yourself and the guy you're trying to get ahead of for laps and laps on end. It's not an easy thing to do. And I mean, Beaver is just sometimes he's not there. I mean, sometimes he's kind of lingering back there a little bit. Right now, he's about a half a second away, but give him a little bit of time, give him some corners to work with, and he can bring that right down to under a quarter of a second in the blink of an eye. So it really just depends on where they are on the track and what kind of mistakes that Steve is going to potentially make here as this race progresses on. So again, as we're still early in this race here, there's still a long, long ways to go before we really need to think about anything other than just staying clean, staying consistent. That's really the only thing that's going to be on these drivers' minds here. Pit stops will happen eventually, but for the time being, I mean, it's only just going to be a matter of keeping yourself out there and not trying to push things too aggressively, not trying to overextend track limits and so on and so forth, which we've seen a little bit of here and there. Drivers really trying to utilize every square inch of this racetrack that they can. We just saw Crew, the 737 Lamborghini, finding himself in a little bit of a pickle there, quickly recovering and putting himself back onto the racing surface. Hopefully going to keep that 737 machine in one piece here. And as we tune over to Book, the 056 driver, having Prince Adam right hot on his heels as well as the leaders. Oh boy, a little bit of brake smoke, or tire smoke actually, I should say. A side-by-side battle here, not only for the lead, but as well for third place in the GT3 class. Both of these drivers, all of these drivers, going tooth and nail at it here. And now that it looks to be that Steve here is going to have some room to work with, some air to breathe, at least for the time being. Again, these cars are seeing top speeds of, we're seeing, I think the accurate speeds are going to be about 182 miles an hour, I think is the fastest time that we actually have here. That seems to be correct here, because I'm seeing some other times on here, but that doesn't seem quite right. I think those are, yeah, anyway. Simply Steve continuing to bob and weave through lap traffic, and actually I kind of want to look at this from this perspective of these two drivers and just kind of appreciate the level of skill that it requires to drive one of these cars and really be effective in them. It's truly fascinating here as we're on board with Beaver, working their way around. I believe that was Biker Pilot in the number 42 machine. And yeah, it just really shows you the speed of these cars and just how much power is packed in them. So, oh boy, both of them taking it wide there, dipping the tires into the gravel just a smidgen, just to rough up the tires a little bit. But now that we've kind of seen a little bit of a break in the action here, I guess you could say, but some distance being put between drivers. Not everyone is going to be on each other's heels now. They can actually get some room to breathe and just click off laps here at this point. And again, that's going to be the primary goal now for most of these drivers, is to just stay consistent, stay clean, and keep themselves in the mix of things. So while that happens, while we see a little bit of a break, excuse me as I had to cough a second, we're going to go back and take a look at Gareth McAllister's incident that I think kind of set him back a little bit further than he may have wanted to be. I know that for a time he was down, and I believe it was 7th place. Oh, here it is, a spin that I'm sure probably did a number on those tires. I mean, any time that you get these cars spun around, it doesn't always feel like it. And there may have even been a separate incident. Looks to be there might have been, actually. As we'll take a look at the most recent incident here from lap 13. I'm trying to determine where our timing and scoring is getting this information that Gareth crashed here, but I think it was just showing that he was a little slow through that hairpin, and I mean, understandably slow. You definitely don't want to be overcooking it here, as Crew seems to be in a similar... What in the world? Where is he at? That is a... Oh, boy. That is a very interesting... Oh, no. I'm sorry. I should not be laughing. That unfortunate situation here for Crew. The reason I was laughing was because of the timing of that and the near miss that we've just witnessed here. But yeah, Crew not having a good day here at Magny-Cours. I think he is going to be hoping for a better race in the coming weeks here. But today at Magny-Cours, I think it's proving to a few different drivers here today that it's got some challenges for them. And I think it's very interesting to see some of the things that some of the challenges that I think a lot of these drivers have had to face already. Let's go ahead, though. I want to take a look at some more past incidents that we've seen here. This one involving Garlic Dog, the 199 machine. Oh boy, finds himself going into the grass, and another driver behind him as well, staying a little cautious, or perhaps even having his own issues. I'm trying to find which driver that is Prince Adam, who seemed to have also had issues there as well. A lot of, really just seems like a lot of off-track incidents turning into, I mean, really just drivers getting into self-spins, tapping the wall, this, that, and the other. Various things happening. Just to individual drivers, not necessarily to multiple ones. At least that I can tell. So, while we have a little bit of time here, while things are quiet, and we're kind of just enjoying the racing here at the moment, just getting an idea of what these drivers are going to do here for their runs here, or at least for their first run. Let's have a little bit of a word here with one of the admins here with J2I, Mr. Eric. A.K.A. Urko, who we've seen in previous races, not able to attend tonight. But Eric, welcome up to the booth. I appreciate your time, and thank you for joining me up here and giving me someone to chat with and talk a little bit about today's race, and not only today's race, but just the league in general. But Eric, the first thing that I guess I want to ask you here is, I mean, what's kind of the expectation from the field that we currently have, at least from your eyes? What do you think is going to happen once the checker flag is waved here tonight? What's kind of your race result predictions here?
Gosh, going into this, I kind of would have said, well, geez, Beaver's just going to run off with it. But watching Steve over the first, 23, 24 minutes of this thing, looks like he's got the measure of Beaver tonight. And the two of them, just from racing against them and this kind of stuff, their strengths are kind of different as far as the way traffic goes. And so, like Steve, Beaver's in the worst position being behind him, because Steve is very good at using the traffic against you to to kind of hose you up and make it harder on you. So Beaver's going to have a tough time getting through there. But what Beaver does really well with the traffic is, like, so if he's out in the lead, he just knifes through it. It does not slow him down at all. So if Steve can kind of hold this through the first pit stop, I think that's where it might be happening right now. But through the first pit stops, if Steve can keep the lead, it may be his to take tonight. GT3, I think Bar South's just gonna walk away with this one, assuming no major issue. I think he's got just a little bit more than the rest of the field tonight, so that's kind of where I'd go. I'd love to see DC hold on and pull a podium for the team. That'd be great.
Well, things are definitely getting heated up. They're getting heated out here for the lead right now. Beaver taking the lead with Steve falling back into that second place spot. The action continues to get spicier here at Magny-Cours. And Beaver, I mean, you know, he's been all over Simply Steve's tail for laps on end now. And I think Simply Steve is going to be in that same position now, where, you know, Beaver was able to keep himself consistently within about a second of a gap between himself and Steve. But now tables have turned. It's Steve's turn to do the same, and I don't exactly know where our pit stops are going to be around. I think it's probably going to be pretty soon, like you just mentioned, Eric. I don't think it'll be too much longer, probably next 10, 15 laps, you'd say, maybe?
Yeah, I think somewhere around 10 or 11 minutes from now, they should be coming in. They should be getting about somewhere around 37, 38 minutes worth of lap time on each tank. So generally, that's usually where it's at. And so they should be coming in. But the way, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever's in second here in 3 or 4 laps, if they come in sooner. Just to try to get a little bit of a shorter pit stop and get through and maybe take the lead back. So if we see a swap here in maybe 4 or 5 laps, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody pits with how close they are, because it'll really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting here to see how pit stops are kind of going to affect the race here overall. But yeah, I just like you mentioned, we've kind of seen that a little bit in past races where, you know, you'll see the leader kind of stretch out their stint for as long as possible, but the remainder of the field kind of they kind of take their own approach to things, and a lot of the, I guess you could say, slower drivers, they'll come in a little bit earlier, grab those tires, grab fuel, so on and so forth, because most of the time it's usually because they've burned through their tires already. The car's not driving the way that they probably want it to, and usually drivers that are coming in that early are probably still getting a feel for the car, just getting used to just racing in general, which is always why the iRacing service is a great way to learn how to do that. Albeit there's always others, but that's what we're here for. And Beaver, I mean, what's kind of been speaking of just iRacing, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about it a long while ago. I mean, it feels like a long while ago now at this point, but you guys, J2I initially started on, it was consoles, correct?
Well, we were PC, but we started on Project Cars 2.
Project Cars, that's what it was. Okay.
Gosh, and that would have been maybe 2018 or something like that. I wasn't around when it first formed. I joined during season 2, and some things kind of went on between now and then, and here we are. But yeah, Project Cars 2 was super fun. There were about 10 of us somewhere around there that used to race, and it had just terrible netcode. You know, 3 or 4 of us would get disconnected every race. You couldn't rejoin. It was just always a problem. And we all liked racing with each other and tried to find something a little bit more stable. So we tried, you know, iRacing, and we were looking at a couple other games, and this was the one that seemed to fit what we were looking for best, and the rest is history. We've been here, gosh, I think since 2019, something like that. So it's great.
It absolutely is. It's honestly, ever since I became a part of the service, ever since I've started doing the broadcasting, it's great to see just how far this service has come compared to where it started originally, and also kind of comparing it to some of the other games or simulators that I've played in the past, Assetto Corsa, Project Cars, various others. I could go on listing them, but iRacing definitely has probably the best feeling and just overall the best experience when it comes to racing in general. So I think if it's something that you're looking for, and if it's something that you're interested in, I definitely would look into it and get yourself invested into the world of sim racing, because I promise it is worth it. For anyone that's watching that isn't a driver or a family member or the like of a driver, or someone someone here in the league that you happen to be watching for. But speaking of people that you're watching for, I mean, other than your teammate here, Eric, I mean, what's kind of your hopes, your outlooks for this season? I mean, I know you both you and your teammate kind of had maybe not as best of a season as you guys were probably hoping for. I know kind of you were talking a little bit towards the beginning that you were hoping to do pretty well here, and maybe a couple rough starts here and there have kind of hindered that. But what's kind of your goal for? I mean, how many races do we have left here?
After tonight, just 3 more in the endurance series. So we'll have, gosh, I can't remember what order they're coming up in, but we've got Detroit, Belle Isle, which is going to be, man, that's going to be, there's going to be some action there, I think. Let me just look. We've got that. Our season finale's at Fuji. It'll be another crown jewel race there. Hockenheim is next, so that'll be great. That's a really good multi-class track. We did that a couple seasons ago, I think. I don't think it was last season, but yeah, Hockenheim Ring will be very fun in 2 weeks from now. So, but regarding me, I guess my goals is at this point I'm just trying to keep it clean. I've had some poor luck, I'll say, at the start of this and the endurance and the sprint series this season, just getting kind of caught up in things on nights that I felt like I had a little bit of pace, and nights where I was just trying to pull one out. I've really only kind of had one go my way, so I was really hoping to be top 3 or 4 in LMDH at the end of the season, but now I'm kind of having to recalibrate and say, well, maybe 5 and 6 is kind of where I need to be shooting for. But it's been a tough season so far, but it's okay. It happens. Everybody gets unlucky, like, gosh, my guy Prince Adam. Man, he doesn't get through a race without getting rear-ended. You know, it's like every race something happens to that guy, and you just feel for him. He puts in a ton of practice. Is lapping all the time, trying to get guys on, and just a great guy. And then he shows up, and 3 laps in, he gets punted, and it's always somebody different. It's a freak thing, but it's always him, and it just sucks for him.
I don't think I could ever relate with someone more than Prince Adam, because if I feel for him in more ways than you could imagine. Having experienced the
I told him I'll never go to the casino with him. He has the worst luck of anybody I've ever met. So, yeah, poor guy.
Yeah,
he's great. Yeah,
it's been rough, I think, for a couple drivers here tonight, but I think he's making the best of it, and I think the rest of the field is as well. I mean, currently sitting 5th overall in the GT3 class. He's not having the worst of worst days, but definitely could probably be having a better one. But actually, on that note, he's actually the highest mover and shaker in the field, and there it goes, giving a punt to Gareth McAllister as well. Gareth probably
that'll do it.
Gareth probably not going to be too thrilled about that one, but I'm sure Prince Adam, he's probably if he's listening to this broadcast right now, he's probably just cursing us right now. But or at least myself. But
poor guy.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? The other guy, it's just killing me for tonight, Captain. Captain's French Canadian. We do race sponsors. That's who comes up with the names of the races. It's just because we do like a donation drive and let everybody kind of pick and choose what they want to name. Once the schedule comes out, he's French Canadian. He's very proud of his French heritage, and he should be. But this is the French GP for J2I. He named it, and the poor guy drives off in turn 1, and the race is, almost over already. And it's like, man, he had some pace, and you can see it as his lap times are coming in. Man, he's running the same lap times as Steve and Beaver are, and he's got pace in the car, and he's closing down Gareth. But it's like, what could have been the night for my guy. So. But there's always next week.
Oh yeah, there's always next week. There's always another race. But yeah, I think I think a lot of drivers, they probably, when they have races like this, when it's just kind of a start and park kind of race, it's probably one of those things where you look back on it and you're just like, man, what could I have done differently to avoid that? And here, as we're talking about him, CK taking a little bit too wide there on the final couple turns there, but is still able to keep things on track, keep things going. And I mean, when I looked back at the replay of the race start earlier, I mean, he got the worst end of the deal out of both drivers that made it off track there. And I think I mean, the fact that he's still able to come back from that, he's sitting in 7th. We're only not even a third of just a little over a third of the way through the race now. I mean, he could have a potential of working up to, I'd say at the very least, to potentially sector up in 5th. Whether or not he'll track down AJ later on, I think that'll remain to be seen. But I think if Captain keeps going the way that he's going, according to timing and scoring, he's got the pace. He should theoretically be able to catch up to, like I said, at least sector up in 5th. And as we close in on our predicted,
I can see that. Yeah.
Our predicted pit window here. Yeah, I think it's gonna be cutting it close here for Captain.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing for Captain in that whole deal, well, other than having to tow and make all that up, was, it didn't happen late enough in the race where he could use that as one of his pit stops to take on enough fuel. So it's going to be an uphill battle for my guy, unfortunately. But if anybody can do it, it's Beaver. No, I'm just kidding. But no, Captain can definitely lock in and crank out laps and make up this gap. P5 would be a pretty good finish after that start and a big tow. Really kind of hoping that DC can hang on to that 3rd place. And I don't want to wish ill on anybody, but if Beaver and Steve wanted to have a little coming together and DC go off to the win, I wouldn't mind seeing that too.
Yeah, I think it's oftentimes it's kind of funny.
Oh, here we go. Biker in the pits. The pit stops have started. I think I'm a little behind you, by the way. Sorry.
I think you are, actually. I didn't even realize that until you mentioned it, and now I'm looking at timing and scoring. But yeah, Biker Pilot came down into pit road for the number 42 machine. And actually, it looks like a lot of the GT3 field has come down into the road or into pit road while we were yabbering away here. The most recent pit entry, going to be Barsal 22 actually, as we're talking about it. The leader of the GT3 class, that's going to be his first pit entry. And Paperbag, the 420, his teammate, going to be making his entry right into the pits right behind him. So that is going to start or end the GT3 pit stops, and Gareth McAllister is going to make his way on in to start off the LMDH field. So Gareth McAllister getting things done nice and early, and Eric, we've got a couple different drivers that kind of started a little bit later in the season. Gareth McAllister being one of them, and Gareth being one of the broadcasters as well here with Team Goon Squad. I mean, it's been great to see one of my good colleagues out there on track. But what's kind of been like from your perspective, having new interest coming into the league and just having new drivers kind of come in and get comfortable with the league and really show a lot of great interest? It's looked like I can't remember who it's all been, but I know Gareth has been one that has seemed to fit very well in with the group and has contributed very much so to the racing as well, I think, as a whole.
Oh, I'd 100% agree. He definitely gets the vibe that we're going for, which is, hey man, when you're on track, we're here to race, but we're gonna talk a little smack to each other. We're gonna have some fun with it in Discord, but everybody means well. Everybody gets along, and he definitely gets it. I think he likes to meme around with us and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's just his living life upside down there in Australia or what, but but he fits right in. And it's cool having somebody international for us. So most of our guys are, you know, U.S. or Canada, or Canada, let me say. But every once in a while, that's going to drive Captain nuts. But every once in a while, we get some international guys, and it's awesome. They always have, you know, just kind of a different kind of spin on personality, different way to talk shit with us. And it's oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
It's okay, don't worry about it.
anyway, but yeah, he's great to have. We always try to push and get new members every off season. Sometimes we pick up stragglers mid-season. It's always kind of iffy how they slot in because you kind of already have people have already made teams. You know, you already kind of know who you're racing against, and this is, hey, there's this new guy. Where's he gonna fall in? And sometimes they just don't like sticking around. And very happy that Gareth is, and hopefully we can continue to see him in sprint and endurance series. He's really a joy to have on track.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see as well if you know, going forward into, you know, after this season is all said and done. I know a lot of drivers, I think, tend to kind of shy away from joining mid-season in a lot of series, and oftentimes have kind of certain times of the year or whatever the case might be where they're looking for time to fill in the sim seat and actually get some racing in. So hopefully when we move into next season and we continue, hopefully get to see more drivers kind of flood in and show some interest in the series and kind of keep filling the field. We've got great entries already, you know, seeing a lot of great drivers on the field week in and week out, and I mean, it would just be great to see more friendly faces out there and keep giving me more names to try and pronounce here, as so far I think I've got most of them pretty well down, but there's always going to be that one guy that's just going to throw me through a loop. But I think I've done pretty good for the most part here today, Eric. But
I'll be honest, some of our real names, not mine, you know, I've got 4 syllables in my entire name, but there's some of our guys, man, I think their nicknames are easier to say quite a bit, so you might have the easy way out right now.
Yeah, looking at some of the drivers' real names compared to their usernames is some of these are a handful. I will say that. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that. And nope, no chance. Anyway, Beaver's gonna be down here in pit road, so that's going to be kind of an interesting entry here for Beaver as well, not necessarily kind of sticking it out as late as I was thinking, as I was, you know, normally predicting for the race leader. DC also making an entry into the pits here as well. But Eric, I mean, kind of looking into, let's see here, and where are we heading to next week? We head to Phillip Island for the sprint series, and then after that we head to Hockenheim. Let's talk a little bit about the sprint series. We've got a little bit of time here, and so far the racing on track is mostly just drivers keeping things green and clean here, which is fairly easy to do, given that we don't have to deal with yellow flags here, which I think is actually quite nice in a lot of ways. It can make things a little chaotic sometimes, but I think it definitely keeps the racing fresh and alive as the night goes on. But
it keeps you honest, that's for sure.
that is definitely true. But yeah, I mean, kind of talking a little bit about the sprint series. What's kind of been your favorite thing about, you know? Well, I guess really the first question I have is, how long has it been since you guys have started the sprint series? I don't think I've ever asked this question before, and now I'm kind of curious how long it's been since you guys have kind of been running this whole operation.
Gosh, so the endurance series goes way, you know, back to like 2018, and it's kind of taken some different forms and different race lengths and different car classes, and we've been multi-class and single class and all that, and that was always kind of our main and flagship series that we always tried to do. And the sprint one has kind of been a few different things over the years. We didn't really know what to do in the in-between weeks. You know, so we did one kind of just rotating weird series where we didn't keep points, and you know, nobody showed up. There was nothing to race for. You know, we don't do prizes, but points. You know, you can point to a leaderboard and say I'm better than you to the other guys. You know, and that keeps people showing up. But so that kind of fell by the wayside, and we tried some different things, and it took us until, I guess it was the summer of 2020, maybe, yeah, 2021, maybe, yeah, 2021, and that's when we started the sprint series, and it's even changed a little bit since then. But our kind of goal there was have something that has different cars than the endurance series, like, and have it rotate a lot more to things that are very different. You know, so season 1 was GT3, season 2 was F3, season 3 was touring cars, and then we did Porsche Cup, and now here we are on SR8. So who knows what it's going to be next season? We all vote on it. We'll get suggestions, and everybody gets together, and you know, we figure out what we're going to race. But it's guaranteed to be something different than SR8, but something fun, and it gets you, you know, it kind of gets guys out of their comfort zone. The endurance is a little bit more of what most of our guys drive when they're doing any kind of official races. They generally will race, you know, prototypes and GT3s, and so that's what we're comfortable in, generally speaking. And so having these weird cars that, you know, you just don't know, and you see people compete that you don't see compete against each other in the endurance series. You know, Squilliam is way in the mix with Beaver all the time. Now, granted, some of that's just because it's single class, but yeah, you see a lot of mixed up stuff. It's quite nice. We like the variety that we get out of it.
Well, I will say, if you're looking for a weird car to have for next season,
if you say a stock car, I'm gonna come find you and kick you in the shin. I'm telling you right now. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I was gonna suggest actually the Lotus 49.
Okay.
Or the 79, if you wanna, you know, go a little newer.
I think we had the Lotus in the vote for this season. The 79. I think we did. I'd have to go back and look. I know one of the last 2 seasons we had that as an option.
Well, I will just say that open wheel racing always kind of has just a special place in my heart. So that, you know, anytime, you know, we got any of that happening, I'm all there. We're signed up. We're there.
I'm really kind of hoping, and this is just me. I have no clue what everybody else is wanting and gonna vote for, but I really want to race the PM18s. That's a fantastic little open wheel road to Indy car, and man, it is awesome to drive. It's really different than the F3. Doesn't have near as much downforce, maybe a little bit slower, but man, it's a blast to drive too. And if you haven't, I highly suggest you check that one out. I'm really hoping that makes the list and gets voted on for the next season.
Well, I certainly look forward to what's to come in the next season. I mean, I don't want to give away spoilers. I don't want to get into, you know, too many nitty-gritty details before things are officially polished and ready to go, because we're not even done with this season yet. So we'll talk more about that at the end of closer to the end of this season. But Eric, I mean, it's been almost an hour into the race here, and about 40 minutes left before we see that checkered flag. One pit stop has already been made. I think we're gonna make one more pit stop before the end of the race here, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, you know, Beaver, Simply Steve, that battle is kind of it's kind of shimmied away here. Beaver's kind of taken a little bit of a lead. Only about 6 seconds, though, separating himself from Steve. So not exactly out of the ballpark, but this definitely has enough clean air around him to breathe and not have to worry about too much. You know, looking into the next 40 minutes, if you were Simply Steve at this point, you know, tracking down Beaver, what's kind of your game plan? What's your what's going to be your plan of attack here to try and track him down?
I mean, it's, you know, obviously it's easier said than done, but Steve has just got to maximize his movements through traffic as much as he possibly can. In this kind of race, they're running, pretty much the same lap times when they have clean air. So he's really not going to make his headway there. He's just going to have to just focus on his traffic management. I know there's not a ton of GT3s out there right now, but when you see them, there's 2 or 3 in a group, this kind of thing. And it's really easy to lose, half a second going through a couple turns, or a second getting held up by 2 or 3 of them. And that's going to make the biggest difference as far as tracking down Beaver. You're not, with the pit stop coming up, they're probably not going to make too much difference there. I think he only really had his shot on the first one to maybe short fuel there, get out in front and try to run away. I think that kind of didn't go that way. So now it's just going to be pure pace and traffic management, and hope for the best.
Yeah, I don't think you could have, or I don't think I could have described it any better. I have never taken a lap around this track myself personally. This is the first time I've ever actually been here, so I mean, I can't really speak too much on the level of difficulty that it takes to rip a lap around here, but just from what I can see and from what I've rode on board with some drivers, I mean, it definitely does not look like a very beginner-friendly track, as I sometimes like to describe some of the harder tracks that you'll sometimes find. And I've almost kind of related it to like a bigger Rutskogen, if you will, a much larger scale Rutskogen in a very weird sense. I don't know, just with the technicality of those tracks, both this track and Rutskogen. I mean, they just have, I don't know, just feel similar in some ways. Anyway, Eric, I don't want to take up too much more of your time here. I'm not sure if what other plans you have for the night, or if you're just kind of hanging out here, but we're getting ready to wrap things, well, pretty close to getting ready to wrap things up here. Only about, again, less than 40 minutes before we see that checkered flag. So I think at the moment we're just gonna ride this out. We're gonna see how this field is going to kind of tackle this next pit stop here. We're still probably another, I would say, looking at, oh gosh, when did we come into pit road? Lap 30.
Yeah, I want to say the GT3s started coming in. It looked like the LMDH has got a little more than 40 minutes, so it's a pretty good night for them, like 41, 42 minutes, something like that. So about 10 minutes to go, they should be coming in. The GT3s maybe 10 minutes before that, with maybe about 20 minutes left to go, somewhere in there. But yeah, I was gonna say I'll let you hop back to it, but I did want to add, we are guaranteed to have a first-time J2I winner tonight out of the GT3 class. Nobody in the field has won a J2I race for points since they've joined. So we are guaranteed. Oh, excuse me, take that back. Bar South has won a sprint race. But yeah, should have first-time winner tonight, so that'll be exciting.
First-time winner, it's always an exciting thing to have, and I'm sure it's going to be a big sigh of relief, I'm sure, not having Squilliam out on track to try and deal with here for the GT3 field. But Barstow 22 seems to have taken his place and seems to be doing quite well up there at the front of the GT3 field. But Eric,
hold it down.
Eric, I wanna thank you yet again for joining me up here in the booth, man. I genuinely appreciate your time, and hopefully.
Can I give one little shout out since you gave Squilliam the big ups, and hopefully he's watching. But I want to give a shout out to the better brother, Remote Crawdad. I'm sorry you're not here tonight. I know you'd be just walking all over Squilliam, and can't wait to see you next week. Okay, that's all I needed to say.
Well, I appreciate it, Eric. I appreciate having you up here, and hopefully get to talk to you again more in the future, and hopefully get to see you back out on here on track before too long. Hopefully things go well here for you next week at, oh gosh, where are we going next week again? I already forgot.
You'll definitely see me at Phillip Island next week.
Phillip Island, there 100%.
We go.
Perfect.
All right, man. Have a good rest of your night.
You as well. Thank you, Eric.
Yep. Bye.
Alrighty, folks. So that was Eric. aka Urko, coming out of the booth here, joining us for a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a conversation, just talking a little bit about racing, well, about the race here today, about J2Y, just some various topics, but we are just about ready to close out the night here. About 35 minutes to go before we see that checkered flag fly, and again, at the moment, it's calm and quiet out here on the track, and not a whole lot happening in the way of battles. It is mostly going to be again, just a fairly calm racetrack, as it's mostly going to be just getting your head down, putting yourself in a position where you feel comfortable to keep clicking off lap times consistently, and continue to hit those marks as best as you can. Let's go ahead and actually, for a little bit, let's take a lap on board for eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a driver by his toe. Let's do DC. You know what? Since we were just talking to his brother Eric here just a second ago, we'll give DC an opportunity for some love here. DC with Team Bong Life Motorsport. We're going to take a ride on board here with the number 3 driver, and let's just have a ride on board and take a listen in a looky-loo at the sights and sounds here at Magny-Cours. So that was a ride on board there with DC, the teammate of Urko, who we were just talking about just a little bit ago for Team Bong Life Motorsports. DC looking to secure a podium position here today for the LMDH class, as just under 30 minutes left to go. It's going to be looking to score some points here and keep pushing their way into the point standings. DC for Team Bong Life Motorsports currently sits... Oh, wow. It looks actually that like we have a three-way tie for second place in the driver standings. So let me actually... So between Simply Steve, AJ, and DC, yeah, these three drivers are all tied for second place in the Drivers' Championship. Beaver is going to be 5th, and then Urko is going to be in that 6th place position. So that is your current standings, and then Eat My Dust currently leads the LMDH class for the Drivers' Championship here at the moment. So and as far as the overall team points go, it actually looks like Team Speed Squad, consisting of both Eat My Dust and Simply Steve, going to be leading the team championship. Bong Life Motorsport with Urko and DC going to be in 2nd place in Team Love Seat, with Beaver and Captain CK going to be in that 3rd place position here at the moment. So as I am still getting a little bit used to how the layout is for the multi-class point stuff here for my notes, but we'll get used to that over time. And it looks potentially that we've got a slight battle starting to develop here between Captain CK and Sector. These two drivers having a relatively loose battle at the moment, about a half a second separating these two for the time being. We'll ride on board with Captain CK and see if we can get an idea or get a picture of a... Oh boy, did he just let him on by? No, he didn't. Okay. I was going to say that would be a very strange move on the behalf of Sector, but the 95 machine currently holding his ground, and Sector going to continue to look to score some points for himself here today as well. As Sector with Team West Coast Racing not able to have his teammate here today, Brando, going to be his teammate. Unfortunately not present for today's race, but Sector still out here scoring some points and trying to have a good race here as well. Currently sitting in 5th, so not exactly having the worst race. As we see them make their way on by Crew, the 737 machine, still finding himself in another pickle here on lap 35 for the GT3 class. They're currently working on lap 38. Actually, that might have been... Okay, Crew is working on lap 35. That makes a lot more sense right now. But here it goes. Captain CK going to try and make a move around the outside of Sector. Not quite going to be able to do so, as he's all over the rear wing of that number 95 machine. CK going to try and continue this push here as they come through the hairpin. So as the dust settles between Sector and Captain CK, or at least for the time being, we take a look at some other drivers around the field as we're waiting for... Actually, we're waiting for pit stops from both classes at the moment. The GT3 class, I think, is going to make their way into the pits here very, very shortly, as Sector finding himself off track here into the gravel, going to have to get back on track, and does so very safely, not with any troubles or anything in that nature. The very clean recovery here for the number 95 driver as he returns back to the racing surface. And he's going to try and keep up the fight here, or at least try and do what he can. And again, this is the point of the race where it's all about just consistency. Any mistake is going to cost you, and recovering from that mistake is going to be quite near impossible. Quiet on the track, quiet for any battles at the moment, and as we're starting actually now to see Long Island Nerd being one of the first GT3 drivers to make their way into the pits here for what will be I would have to assume is a more official second stop here. We've got a couple drivers that have made more than one stop already here tonight, but I don't think it has been for just tires and fuel. It might have been for fast repairs or things of that nature, as we see a Long Island Nerd here along with Gareth McAllister. And Gareth kind of doing the very respectful thing and not really pushing aggressively here, not trying to bob and weave around biker pilot there, excuse me. Oh boy, Gareth having a bit of a lock up there on the tires, and hopefully not going to continue to see that here, as I think so far since his debut, Gareth, this has probably been his worst race since the start of the season. Definitely has not been the 35 Machines day, and according to timing and scoring here, actually, it looks like it's his off-track incidents have also confirmed that here as well. Not having a particularly great day here at Magny-Cours, and hopefully going to see a recovery from that here as the 35 Machine makes his way into pit road. And that's going to signal what I would have to imagine is going to be the final pit stops here as well for the LMDH class, albeit they technically could stay out another 10 laps before they need to come in, which kind of makes me wonder if they are going to stay out all the way until that point where there's only going to be about 10 minutes left in the race. Oh boy, as we start to see some interesting action here between Paper Bag and Biker Pilot. Paper Bag, I mean, he saw the door, it's wide open, he's going to take it. But man, oh man, that was close between both of these drivers, and Gareth McAllister as well, trying to work his way through the lap traffic yet again, as he just made his way through pit road. Just about 15 minutes left to go here before we see the end. And at the moment, it looks to be that Captain CK, or excuse me, Sector and Eat My Dust, now going to see a battle start to develop between these two drivers. About a quarter of a second separates them here at the moment. We're right on board from the helmet camera of the number 24 machine for just a second, just a moment, as they battle it out side by side. And now Sector gonna be the one with, oh man, gonna be the one with the disadvantage, as he's gonna be stuck to the inside, having to take the slower exit than that of Eat My Dust here. And I guess that's a fitting name in this nature, but the 24 machine going to continue on, but still going to see the presence of Sector, the number 95 machine, in his mirrors, at least for a little bit, and potentially until the checkered flag here tonight. So again, as we're expected to see the GT3 field should start to make their way down here into the pits before too long, I'd have to say within the next 5 minutes, to finish out their final pit stops of the race, and as well as the LMDH field once they get things about lap 60 will be around the point where we'll expect to see the LMDH field start to come in. And there goes Biker Pilot, makes his way into the pits here, third place for the GT3 class. We'll actually run through your top 5, or your top, why not, top 5. Beaver, Simply Steve, DC, AJ, and Captain CK, all your top 5 here for the LMDH. Barstyle 22, Paper Bag, Biker Pilot, and Long Island Nerd and Book going to be your top 5 here for the GT3 class. And here it goes. Barstow 22, the leader for the GT3 class, makes his way down into pit road. And that's going to be the leader, signaling to potentially the rest of the field that it is now that time and to get themselves ready. 15 minutes on the clock, or less than 15 minutes now, as we see DC a little bit of a brake lock up there as he tries to make his way around the hairpin. But Paper Bag taking the lead from his teammate for just this lap, I would have to imagine. He's probably going to come back around and make his entry down into pit road as well. But Barstow 22, meanwhile, back out onto the racing surface, going to be in second place here at the moment. So with just under 15 minutes left to go here, the clock is ticking, and from what I can see, I don't think there's going to be any real battles happening until the end. It's all going to come down to just keeping yourself clean, keeping yourself consistent, and with how fresh these tires are going to be for the next 13 minutes, I think this is going to be quite an interesting finish to today's race. So driver's going to have some relatively fresh tires to work with all the way until the checkered flag, and should be able to put them in some good positions for passing, or at least trying to track down anyone that may be ahead of them, or so on and so forth. As we actually just saw Long Island Nerd have a bit of a slip up there, able to recover from it very quickly, keeps himself on track and keeping it going in the right direction. Simply Steve trying to work his way around Long Island Nerd on the front straightaway, trying to keep himself good and fast here, but not without having still a 17-second gap between himself and Beaver, our race leader at the moment. So, I mean, Beaver has definitely dominated tonight's race, has definitely shown he has got great pace and has shown a lot of great consistency throughout tonight's race here as well. So again, a crucial aspect of being successful here today is showing that consistency and being able to execute each lap to darn near perfection. Granted, I don't think there's been a single lap here that a driver has made that you could say is perfect, but I will say that being able to consistently hit your same marks every single time, every single lap is critical. Oh boy, that was a Long Island Nerd that we just had get sideways. The O2 machine finding himself in a little bit of a pickle here. Less than 10 minutes left to go here, and it is coming down to the wire. I'm still wondering if we're going to see these final pit stops happen here for the LMDH class. I would have to imagine that we will, as currently Sector, the number 95 machine, currently sitting down in pit road. I suppose I would have to take that as an indicator that there is going to be one final pit stop for these drivers. And as I was talking with Urko a little bit earlier, It seems that would be the general consensus. So just waiting to see when the rest of the field is going to make that move. As right as we're saying that, Beaver actually comes across the line with the fastest time of the race here today, a 1:24.77 for Beaver in the number 10 here today. So going to be on older tires here as well. So, I mean, the fact that he's out here clicking off the fastest lap times of the race with old tires is, well, just goes to show the level of skill behind the wheel there of that number 10 machine. Barsal 22 having some big troubles here up in the front of the field for the GT3 class. Able to recover from it, but man, oh man, not a situation you want to find yourself in with less than 10 minutes left to go in this race. Hopefully that's only a one-time thing here for the 75 driver, but man, that is going to be cutting it very close here. It looked like almost finding himself into the wall there for a second, but again, great recovery here from Barsal. Starting to see a slight battle maybe develop here between Book and Long Island Nerd. We're watching along with Long Island at the moment as he closes in on that 056 machine. Now under 5 minutes left before we see this race come to a close. It's Beaver, Simply Steve, and DC, the top three drivers overall, as well as in your LMDH class. Barsal 22, Paper Bag, Biker Pilot going to be the top three in the GT3 class. And again, folks, as we are now coming to the close of today's race, and it looks like actually we might have been wrong about the LMDH drivers looking to come in for one last time, because it's right at that mark where they should be coming in, and I don't see any signs of any of these drivers wanting to make an entry here at this point in the race. I think they're just going to look to take it all the way to the end. Realistically, only going to have to come around the track probably two or three more laps, maybe 4, before this thing is all said and done. But I think they might be able to take it all the way to the end here. And there it is. I'm eating my words. Beaver, the number 10 driver, coming on into pit road. This might be the shakeup that this might be the shakeup that Simply Steve is possibly looking for here, and maybe even some other drivers, as we get this thing ready to go for what will be the final pit stop. Last minute pit stop being made from the LMDH drivers. Oh, as you see, a very brutalized 35 machine from Gareth McAllister down there as well. That machine has definitely seen some better days. So with Beaver and Simply Steve, as well as DC, all three of these drivers have made their way down into pit road, but a couple outliers, AJ as well as Captain CK, Eat My Dust, and Sector, none of these drivers have made the choice to come down into pit road. They've all decided to stay out I would have to assume just finish out today's race. I don't think they're going to make that final pit stop. They might be able to make it all the way to the end on fuel. So, I mean, if you can make it work, you can make it work. But definitely interesting to see how some of these final stints are working out for some of these drivers, as just a few more seconds until the checkered flag is officially waved. And it looks like actually it's going to be perfect timing as usual. As Beaver comes across the line, it won't be until Beaver comes across the line the next time. Well, actually, you can actually see the flag man there for just a brief second waving that white flag all like a madman. So this is the final lap here for these drivers as they make their way around for the very last time here at Magny-Cours, and they get ready to finish things out here tonight. Race number 5 of the Just Two Idiots Cup Series Endurance Series has been absolutely fantastic and filled with a lot of great racing and a lot of learning experiences, I think is the best way to describe it for some drivers here today. Checkered flag is out as Beaver comes across the line for the win here today. Simply Steve's going to be not too far behind, as we're going to see a lot of various drivers taking the checkered flag here as they come across the line, finishing out their last lap here of the race. And a whole bunch of drivers coming across the line here, actually, as looks like Captain CK and DC might have had a little short battle there for a second coming across the line, but DC coming away with 4th and CK in 5th. And Barsal 22 going to be making his way through the final few turns here. Brings himself across the line for the win for the GT3 class. And while he does that, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves set up here for some post-race interviews. We'll start it off here with Mr. Barsal 22. Once we get things, once he gets himself across the line and settled out here, and we'll also go through our post-race results here as well. All right, so running through the field here just to round out. Oh gosh, just to round out our field. Beaver coming away with the win. Simply Steve in 2nd, AJ in 3rd, DC in 4th, Captain CK in 5th, Eat My Dust in 6th, Sector in 7th, Gareth McAllister in 8th, Bar South 22 in 9th, Paper Bag in 10th, Biker Pilot in 11th, Book in 12th, Long Island Nerd in 13th, Garlic Dog in 14th, Crew in 15th, Prince Adam in 16th, and rounding out the field is Lamp in that 17th place spot. Let's go ahead and get started with some post-race interviews. Starting off is going to be Mr. Bar South up here in the booth. Bar South, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on a win here today for the GT3 class. It has been it's been a phenomenal race here today. Definitely probably a challenging one for some drivers, but I mean, for yourself coming into tonight, what was your expectations? I mean, this is the first time I've been here to Magny-Cours, so kind of give me a rundown on your past experiences, or if you've had any past experiences here, and kind of what led to your success here tonight.
Sure. So yeah, what's up? I didn't really expect much. This is my first time racing here. Really cool track, but just never got around to, like, you know, buying it and giving it a shot. So did some practice this week and had no idea what was a good time and what wasn't. So just figured we'd go out there and try to survive, because this track's kind of tough in the Porsche, but it apparently worked out well. Didn't expect this, so 2 thumbs up.
well, a win is always a welcome finish, I think, for anyone. But I mean, not having Squilliam out there on the track to, you know, kind of just drive away with the win, you know, having an opportunity to really kind of lead the field and stay out in front. I mean, both you and your teammate dominating the top 1 and 2 spots here. I mean, it was a night to kind of write home about, I guess you could say. But looking forward, going into next race, which is at Hockenheim, what's kind of your expectations there? I mean, that's a kind of a difficult, technical track in its own right, but maybe not nearly as aggressive as what we saw here today. What's kind of your expectations in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, so I actually really like Hockenheimring. That's one of my favorites, low key. So This track is similar to that in some of the technical areas, but this track is a little bit more tricky and perilous in spots. Hockenheim is technical, but not as unforgiving, and has a really good flow. So I think I'll do pretty well there. I really enjoy that track. Maybe not another win. That'd be cool. I guess depends if Squilliam shows up, but but we'll see. I really like Hockenheim, so I'm excited to go to that one.
Absolutely. Well, I certainly look forward to it, and I want to congratulate you again on coming away with your win here today. And before I let you go, before you get to cracking open a cold one and celebrating with your teammate and your fellow drivers, anyone you want to shout out, anyone you want to thank before you go here tonight?
Shout out my teammate, Paper Bag. Scuderia DNF, boy. Let's go. And shout out you guys. Appreciate having you guys here, and this is awesome. So,
absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thanks, boys.
Yeah, thank you yet again for coming up here and joining me up here in the booth. I know I kind of yanked you out of your room there for a minute, but I appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing you in the next coming weeks, and hopefully get to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed, dog. Thanks, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too, man.
Alrighty, folks. Barsal22 coming away with that fat win for the GT3 field. Up next, and certainly is not going to be least here tonight, a man that we have gotten to be pretty familiar around here, up here in the broadcast booth, Mr. Beaver, joining us yet again for the LMDH field, coming away with the win overall, as well as for his class. Beaver, you have put on an absolutely impeccable performance here today. Had a little bit of a bout with Simply Steve a little bit earlier in the race, but once you were kind of able to work your way around him after what seemed like, I want to say, almost 10 to 15 laps of you guys kind of going at it there for a little while. So what's, after tonight and after kind of getting a breath of fresh air and being able to, get into some clean air of your own and not having anyone to work around, what was kind of running through your head once you knew that it was all just a matter of staying clean and consistent here?
Yeah, there wasn't a second during this race that I felt comfortable. I think Simply Steve was definitely the class of the field, and he has been through the practices this week. He's just been straight up quick here, and I guess I got just lucky enough to get some clean air, get out front. I made that first mistake. He got by me, and then he kind of made a similar mistake, if I recall. So to get back up front was nice. I feel like he had a lot more drive off. Oh my God, he could pull me on corner exit, and I didn't know what the deal was. So I think overall he was quicker. Maybe I had some more consistency or luck with traffic, for that matter. And then after the first pit stop, I thought maybe he was saving fuel to try to make it to the end, because it was really close. We just had to pit for maybe a gallon and a half to get to the end. So I think, and in fact, AJ made that fuel save, so he didn't have to make that second pit stop. So it was possible, and that's what I thought Simply Steve was doing. So I was never comfortable this entire race. I'm so glad it's over.
Yeah, it looked like towards the end it was coming down to the wire there for fuel strategy for you guys, and I was really trying to crunch the numbers in my head. I was trying to figure out what it was going to come down to, but yeah, it definitely seemed like it was going to be close calls all around. But it seemed like it worked out in your favor, and I mean, it seemed like for your field and for the rest of the drivers in the LMDH class, it was an exciting night. But now that Magny-Cours is in the rear view mirror, looking forward, heading into, oh boy, I'm trying to remember all these. I'm getting them all mixed up now. Hockenheim. We head back to Hockenheim. What's kind of your expectations there? I mean, I kind of talked a little bit about it with Bar South, and a little bit of a technical track, not quite as technical as what we have here. But Beaver, I mean, honestly, I expect to see you up there in the front. I mean, what's kind of your predictions of next week, and do you have any preparations that you're going to be making, or what's kind of going to be the game plan for next week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think my prep will be about the same. Try to get I don't know, 30 or 40 laps of practice. It's a track I'm familiar with, so yeah, I have a lot of laps there, and I think you're right when you say Hockenheim's a technical track. I can actually see a lot of similarities between Hockenheim and this track as far as kind of fast chicane type things to tight hairpins. Very similar track. So I think the people you saw dominant tonight are going to be dominant in 2 weeks at Hockenheim, just because these tracks seem so similar, in my opinion. But yeah, Hockenheim's fun. It's not my favorite, but I think we'll get by and do just fine.
Absolutely. Well, Beaver, I want to thank you yet again for your time and for joining me up here in the booth and hanging out and chatting with me for a little bit. And I would just congratulate you yet again on your win. I mean, it's been a strong season for yourself and Team Love Seat. I mean, you guys have crushed it all season long, and hopefully get to see that momentum carry forward throughout the season. But Beaver, I want to thank you again for your time. And before you go, anyone you want to shout out, anyone to thank before you head out and crack open a cold one with your fellow drivers?
Sure, yeah, well, definitely a shout out to Simply Steve. Again, like I said, I think he was definitely the class of the field. It didn't quite work out tonight, but his time is coming. He's definitely fast. And then AJ for another podium in the Endurance Series. I think he's got one in the Endurance Series, so that's pretty cool. And then it's a bunch of fresh faces for the podium in the GT3 class. So Bar South Paper Bag Biker Pilot, congratulations, guys! Love seeing them on the podium. It's very cool.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great to see some new faces up there on the podium for the GT3 class. But for yourself, Beaver, for your team, I thank you yet again for joining me up here, and I look forward to seeing you not only next week in the Sprint Series, but also the next couple weeks here yet again for the Endurance Series.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You have a great night.
You too. See ya.
Alrighty, folks, so that is going to be Beaver, our race winner, coming out of the booth here, and that is going to bring our coverage of race number 5 of the Endurance Series to a close. And folks, it has been a fantastic night of racing here at Magny-Cours with the Just Two Idiots Cup Series. And as always, my name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight. You all know what to do already. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad 7 nights a week. Hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw. It lets us know that we're still doing a good job, and we just appreciate the internet brownie points. So, anyhow, folks, and also if you want to support what we do here, support whether it be Team Goon Squad as a whole, or if you would like to support the Just Two Idiots Cup Series, you can head on over to our website, teamgoonsquad.com, and you can pick up some merchandise. If you pick up anything from the Just Two Idiots category, whether it's a t-shirt, a sweater, a coffee mug, or even just a sticker, 50% of the profit goes directly back to the Just Two Idiots Cup Series to help them fund what they're doing and help them continue to put on the great series that they've been putting on and continue to host the league that they have worked so hard to build. So, on that note, folks, I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning in here tonight yet again, and I look forward to seeing you all for round number 6 of the Endurance Series in 2 weeks, same time, same place at Hockenheim. Thank you all for tuning in and watching, and I will see you all in the next one.
Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Bolts. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Porcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Let's go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the 1-on-1 up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
J2ICS up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.